Why Are People Left-Handed by Dylan M. Abrams. If you know an older left-handed person, chances are they had to learn to write or eat with the right hand. And in many parts of the world, this is still common practice to force children to use their proper hand. Even the word for right also means correct or good. Not just in English, but in many other languages too. But if being left-handed is so wrong, then why does it happen in the first place? Today, about 1 out of 10 of the world's population are left-handed. Archaeological evidence shows that this has been that way for as long as 500,000 years. With about 10% of human remains showing the associated differences in arm length and bone density, the same ancient tools and artifacts showing evidence of left-handed use. And despite what many may think, handedness is not a choice. It can be predicted even before birth based on the fetus's position in the womb. So if handedness is inborn, does this mean it's genetic? Well, yes and no. Identical twins who have the same genes can have different dominant hands. In fact, this happens as often as it does with any other sibling pair. But the chances of being right or left-handed are determined by the handedness of your parents. Surprisingly, consent ratio. If your father was left-handed but your mother was right-handed, you have a 17% chance of being born left-handed. While two righties have a left-handed child, only 10% of the time. Handedness seems to be determined by the roll of dice, but the odds are set by your genes. All of this implies there is no reason that evolution has produced this small production of lefties and maintained it over the course of millennia. And while there have been several theories attempting to explain why handedness exists in the first place, or why most people are right-handed, the recent mathematical model suggests that an actual ratio reflects a balance between competitive and cooperative pressure of human evolution. The benefits for being left-handed are clearest in activities involving an opponent, like combat or competitive sports. For example, about 50% of the top hitters in baseball have been left-handed. Why? Think of it as a surprise advantage, because lefties are a minority to begin with. Both right-handed and left-handed competitors will spend most of their time encountering and practicing against righties. So when the two face each other, the left-hander will be better prepared against the right-handed opponent, while the righty will be thrown off. This finding hypothesis where an imbalance in the population results in an advantage for left-handed. Fighters or athletes is an example of negative frequency dependent selection. But according to the principles of evolution, groups that have been relative advantage tend to grow until the advantage disappears. If people were only fighting and competing throughout human evolution, natural selection would lead to more lefties being the ones that made it until there was so many of them. But it was no longer a rare asset. So in a particularly competitive world, 50% of the population would be left-handed. But human evolution has been shaped by cooperative as well as competitive, and cooperative pressure pushes handedness distribution in the opponent's direction. In golf, where performance doesn't depend on the opponent, only 4% of the top players are left-handed. An example of a wider spectrum of tool sharing. Just as two young potential golfers can move easily find a set of right-handed clubs, many of the important instruments that have shaped society were designed for the right-handed majority. Because lefties were worse at using these tools, they suffer of higher accident rates. They would be less successful in a purely cooperative world, eventually disappearing from the population. So, by correctly predicting and distribution of left-handed people in the general population, as well as matching data from various sports, the model indicates that the percentage of lefties as a small but stable minority reflects an equilibrium that comes from competitive and cooperative effects playing out similarities over time. And the most intriguing thing is that the number can tell us about various populations, from the skewed dispersion of podness in cooperative animals, and to the slightly larger percentage of lefties in competitive hunter-gatherers society. We may even find the answer to some puzzles of human evolution are already in our hands.